Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big start, deep face Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer.
Great morning! It is a Victory Monday. It was a late night for me last night. I wasn't out partying. I was working on the post-game radio show. And what I witnessed was nothing less than spectacular. The streets erupted in pandemonium. The city of Tampa Bay celebrates its third professional team this year, making it to the championship. 2 for 3. Our Lightning won the championship. Our Rays made it, fell short. And our Bucks last night made history. The first to ever do it. Becoming the first team to win a Super Bowl in the host town. And it was amazing. Great morning. You're mic'd up on Monday morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton. Thank you for joining us. It is 10:01 on the dot. And today's topic of discussion, as I was driving in this morning, praying, God, what you want to talk about today? So today we're talking about the first time. Do you remember your first time? DJ A&A.
Great rising, people.
Great rising. The topic of discussion today, do you remember your first time? First time for a lot of things. There is a first time for everything.
There is.
Under the sun.
Correct.
And what I've learned is those first times, DJ A&A, are memory keepers.
Pivotal.
All right.
They set precedent.
They set the precedent. All right. They set the tone, the stage for what's to come. Because you always remember your first time. I got a special guest that has something special in the column about his first time. You'll meet him. Very near and dear friend to my heart. Mr. Parnell Dickinson will be joining me later on in the show. And we'll be talking about some of his first times from back in the day. Bringing back a NFL legend. And we're talking sports this morning. Why? Because the Bucks won the Super Bowl. The Bucks won the Super Bowl, and it was unbelievable. We want to talk about the process of what it took to become world champions. I've been there before. Been there twice, once in college, too. A lot of what I saw this year, studying the Bucks and analyzing them week in and week out, is they weren't the perfect team at first. They were a good team, a good collection of talent, but they hadn't quite put it all together. And there's a cliche in football where we say defense wins championships. We saw that happen in 2002 when the Bucks won the Super Bowl with the greats Warren Sapp and Derrick Brooks, Rondé Barber, Simeon Rice, John Lynch, Mike Allstott, the list goes on and on and on, Sheldon Quarles. And those guys really won that Super Bowl defensively. I believe that year they may have scored like 13 times on defense. 13 times on defense. And this year, we were able to lean on our defense in the most crucial times of the season, and they came out victorious. And history was made, the first team to ever do it in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It will never be forgotten. It will never be forgotten that arguably the greatest athlete of our time. You know, we talk about the GOAT, meaning the greatest of all time, and that is specific. That is like, you know, we put Tom Brady in the category of the GOAT as the best football player. But what happened last night kind of catapults Tom Brady, in my opinion, to a whole new category. We have great athletes in the world. Magic Johnson. All right. Clyde Drexler. You remember these names, don't you? DJ A&A.
You playing, right?
Allen Iverson.
I remember him.
Allen Iverson. We remember these great athletes. Grant Hill. Joe Montana. Steve Young. Johnny Unitas. We remember these great athletes. Peyton Manning. Eli Manning. But there's a different category when we talk about, like, being on the world stage. You know there's a difference when I say Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. There's a different stage, okay? Muhammad Ali was a world changer, a difference maker. Mike Tyson is just considered probably pound for pound one of the most dominant or the most dominant boxers of our time in the sport. But Muhammad Ali was recognized as a figure. You know, you put these people in the category of people like, you know, Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? Same, that's the category you in as a world changer. Well, Tom Brady, what he did last night and what he's done for this city, I believe is catapulted into that Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, that category. I'm trying to figure out somebody else, you know, like who else athletes who are in that category. And I'm sure, and forgive me for my other sports, you know, my memory slips me. Anna, do you remember your first time? That's what we're talking about today, all right? And how those first time moments or memories kind of set the stage for your life. And today I'm just going to be running off. I got some funny stories I'm going to tell. But it's a great segue into a title or topic that I want to talk about with my very special guest, Mr. Parnell Dickinson, about one of his first-time glory moments. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. Coming up, the first time I went to the altar, the first time, and y'all going to laugh about this one because it's so funny, but it set the stage for me for the rest of my life. The first time I tried to smoke weed, I'm going to tell you about it. The crazy thing is it wasn't even weed. You're going to laugh about that one. I promise you. I'm going to crack you up, all right? My first time speaking in front of kids, I was embarrassed. I was scared, but it set the tone. All right, my first catch at LSU, my first catch with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shout out to one of the Tampa Bay greats, John Lynch, who was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe one of the most prestigious awards you can win in football outside of becoming a Super Bowl champ is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. John Lynch was inducted this past week. And I'll be talking about my first touchdown against the great John Lynch and how we always enjoy to talk about those moments when we see each other in public. But do you remember your first time? Y'all stay with me. When we're coming up, we're going to go to a quick little break. Yeah, we're going to go to a quick little break, going to gather some thoughts. And when we come back, we're gonna hit you with the first. Do you remember your first time? Y'all get ready to call in. That number is right there on your screen. Y'all give me the stories about your first time. Y'all keep it clean for me, though. We got kids watching. Y'all stay tuned.
Buccaneer, one eye patch patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big star defense Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer, Buccaneer, Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big star defense Buccaneer.
Don't you bring me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No.
Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
Frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Catch my show that will be all up in your business. Let's Talk Business with Cheryl J. Cuso. Every Wednesday at 12:31 p.m. My business experts provide insight for business entities and entrepreneurs. So join us every Wednesday from 12:31 p.m. to 1:31 p.m. at www.intouchnews.com. Catch my show.
Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer.
And we still going crazy. The Bucs win the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 55 is in the books. And the Bucs name is written in that book, being the first team to ever win the Super Bowl in its own town. Wow. Last night on the radio, I was saying one man changed the lives of many. Last time the Bucs went to the playoffs was 2007. That's when I was there. And we also went to the playoffs in 2005. And that was the last two times the Bucs have been to the Super Bowl in this century. And it's been a long time for Buccaneers since 2007. Hadn't won the Super Bowl since 2002. A long time coming for this moment. Many different first-round draft picks drafted to the Bucs to kind of make a difference, myself included. Came up short, as many did. And then there was one man, DJ A&A. There was one man who decided to come to Tampa Bay. And he brought all of his greatness with him.
Who was it?
That one man, his name is Tom Brady. Do you know who that is?
I know the name.
Yeah.
He played for the Patriots, right?
He did.
There we go.
I'm proud of you.
I know a little
But I'm
something.
kind of disappointed because I felt a little hesitation in your voice. There's certain people you need to know.
Okay.
Tom Brady is one of them.
All right, sure.
I just told you, you put him on a global figure as Muhammad Ali. You
Right.
got to know this guy. You got to know him.
Okay.
One
I'm
man
gonna do
comes to Tampa and changes the lives of many. Every coach on that coaching staff is about to get a raise, a bonus. They got 4 or 5 more years added on their contract. Because once you win, you get some grace years once you win the Super Bowl. But the truth of the matter is it wasn't about one man. It was about a team effort. And it was exciting to watch. Do you remember your first time? It was back in, I was in the 8th grade. My first 8th grade year. I was in the 8th grade twice. Not because I wasn't that smart, because I was young. And I'm going to school at, ironically, I went to Jimmy Swaggart. Do you know Jimmy Swaggart?
No.
You don't know Jimmy Swaggart either?
No.
Well, Jimmy Swaggart is probably one of the largest evangelists in the world. And I went to his school back in the day when I was a young boy. And when I was in the 8th grade, it was my first time in church. You know, I'm with all of my friends, and we're just kind of hanging out. And we got to go to chapel once a week. So we're in chapel, right? And I'm feeling this, I'm feeling real spiritual on this day. And we would always crack jokes in chapel. We didn't take it serious. And we're sitting in chapel, and we decide that we're going to go down to the altar. Now, we're in the 8th grade year, 13-year-olds. So you just imagine about 7 or 8 13-year-old boys, 12, 13-year-old boys, cracking, joking up, going to the altar. Now, y'all forgive me now, because this is my first time. This is my first time ever going down to the altar, trying to take it serious. So I go gather all of my buddies. Hey, man, let's go down to the altar. Let's go get some prayer. Let's go get some prayer. Let's go give our life to Christ. And let's go get right. I was serious, but my buddies who I was with, they wasn't really taking it serious. But they was like, all right, because they always like, get somebody, go down there with you. Bring somebody. So I was bringing all of my boys. We're going down to the altar, and we are about to ask God to come into our life. It's about 7 of us. It's me and one of my buddies, Moel DeMore. And the reason why I'll never forget this is because me and Moel DeMore were the only, and Moel DeMore ended up getting drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. He won a Super Bowl with the Steelers. He'll be a guest on my show later on this year. Great friend of mine. But me and Moel DeMore, we were the only ones that really wasn't playing. All my other buddies was down there cracking up. And I'll never forget one of my friends. I'm not going to call his name because I know he watching. he started faking the Holy Ghost, DJ A&A. He started faking the Holy Ghost. And when he started faking the Holy Ghost, my other homeboy started faking it. And now we sitting at the altar with hundreds of kids who are taking this serious. I'm trying to take it serious. Moel DeMore trying to take it serious. And my homeboys are falling out, faking the Holy Ghost. It was embarrassing. We sitting there laughing. And in that moment, I felt like my friends was about to go to hell, DJ A&A. Literally.
Oh, no.
Literally.
Oh, no.
I'll never forget that day because it was my first time at the altar, and I'll never forget what I felt. I was down there with Moel DeMore. We sitting there kicking my homeboy. Man, they sitting there, oh, Lord, Jesus, thank you, Lord. I'm talking about they in full character. The whole school just laughing. They ended up getting kicked out of school, by the way. But I never forget that. And I was like, man, them jokers going to hell. And I always respected. When I went to the altar from then on, I always made sure that I was right mentally, that it wasn't a joke, that it was serious, because I always remembered that. And it's funny how things pan out. Every single joker who was down there on that altar who was joking and playing around didn't end up too high. And the 2 guys who was trying to take it serious, me and Moel DeMore, you know, we found favor in life, should I say. We found a lot of favor in our lives. Moel played, I believe, 9 years in the NFL. I played 8 years. And we always had that seriousness, but I go back to that first time at the altar and my friends cracking jokes, catching the fake Holy Ghost. So many people be catching that fake Holy. You ever been to a church, DJ A&A, when people be catching that fake one?
I don't think so. Or maybe I just couldn't pick up on it.
It happens. But I've always taken it serious because of that. The first time. My first time ever being bad. calling myself smoking weed.
Oh,
Do you remember your first time?
slightly, but not really.
It does that to you.
It does.
It will do that to you. Me and my boy, Moel DeMoore, this crazy still, Moel DeMoore. We at my house. Probably about 14 years old.
Terrible.
And I'm finding myself, I'm going to be hard. We got some weed in the back. No, we don't. No, we don't, DJ A&A.
Was it oregano?
And we got oregano. We got some seasoning. And we so stupid. We think it's the same. It looked the same.
Not necessarily.
It looked the same. It kind of smelled the same when you 14 years old and you ain't never really seen weed except for on TV.
Right.
And never seen it in person, never smelt it, burned in person.
Oh, gosh.
It's the same.
See, I got high off oregano?
The crazy thing is we was high. We was lying. We wasn't high. We
No.
just like they were faking that Holy Ghost.
You was faking that.
We were faking the high. The funniest thing in the world was I didn't tell Moel DeMoore that it was oregano.
So he thought he was smoking.
Oh, he was big faking. He was falling all in the street. Ah, oh, this that good. He was, Moel gonna be mad. He laughing right now. He cracking up right now. Ah, he rolling all in the street over some oregano. Sad thing is, the oregano was probably about 10 years old. It's been in the cabinet.
Y'all probably was high.
It was in the back of the cabinet.
Y'all probably was high a little bit.
It probably had a little
something, you know. Not THC, but it was a little something.
It burnt your throat, though. I do remember. Here's another. The crazy thing is, DJ A&A. Do you remember your first time ever trying to? We rolled it up. We ain't had no papers to roll it up in.
What did you roll it up?
We rolled it up in some loose leaf paper.
Like the paper you write on?
With the blue stripes on it and everything.
No, you did not.
We about to die out there smoking a regular and loose leaf paper.
Bleach paper? Yeah, y'all was high, right?
Golly, do you remember your first time? That set the tone. We ain't never smoking that again.
Please don't. Please don't.
Do you remember your first time? Oh, my goodness.
That's funny.
I remember my first time speaking in front of some kids. I was a senior in high school, and my principal, one of my teachers at, I forget the name of that school, but I went to Mayfair Elementary. I forget the name of the school that she was teaching. I think it's Lanier Elementary in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And she asked me to come speak to her kids. And I was like, oh, absolutely, Miss Lewis. I'll come speak. I'll do that for you. I love you. I've never spoken before a day in my life in front of nobody in public. But I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. How hard can it be? Man, I get in front of them kids.
Did you freeze up?
Did I freeze? Forgot everything.
Everything?
I'm just standing there. Deer in the headlights.
Smiling. Did you at least smile? Okay.
And some way, somehow, God put something in my heart, and I ended up speaking. Then I ended up speaking for like 35, 45 minutes.
Oh, snap. You broke
the
ice.
It was the best thing ever. Sat there, I was so nervous. I'll never forget that, so scared. And from that moment, I always said, how bad can it be?
Not that bad.
And it opened the door for like things like this to feel comfortable talking to people. That one moment in high school, my first time, Miss Lewis giving me an invite to speak before her kids, and that opened the door for me to be able to feel comfortable talking to thousands upon thousands of people, trying to motivate them to be their very best self.
That's lovely.
My first time speaking this, I was thinking about this. Like, the first time in my life set precedence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that. And I'm thankful. Thank you, Miss Lewis, for that. Thank you for that. I want to hear your first time, DJ A&A.
The first time.
The first time, anything.
Let's see.
Give me a story.
Okay, so the first time I was on stage, I was in the choir at North College Hill Senior High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we were singing "Signed, Sealed, Delivered."
Signed, sealed,
That's
delivered.
Stevie
I'm yours.
Wonder. Yep. And I had a little solo. So that was the first time that I was in front of like a room full of people, auditorium full of people.
Okay.
And I had to sing. I no longer sing.
You wanted to do that?
I wanted to. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I wanted to.
In that moment, how was that for you on stage? You were nervous?
I was nervous. I was definitely nervous.
When you were on stage, did you pay attention to all of the people, or did you focus on just...
No, they tell you to focus on one thing.
One person.
And that's what I did. I found my mama in the crowd, and I looked at her.
You remember your notes?
I don't.
You can't sing for a little bit?
No. No.
And now
I sing in the shower and in the car, and I sing along to the radio.
Keep that alive. But that one moment on stage opened the door for you. Now you're not scared to grab the mic and come on?
No, I'm not scared to grab the mic and come on and talk to the folks. I just don't like to be in front of the camera most days.
Why not?
I don't like people looking at me.
Well, we got to get over that for you. You ever been on the camera?
Yeah, I've been on the camera plenty of times. I'm not scared to be on the camera. I just don't like to be on the camera.
But it opened your door. It opened the door. The first time for everything. If you have a story about your first time, call that number on your screen. We want to hear about your first time stories. 3 minutes. I remember the first time, my first pass that I caught at LSU. We played against Tulane. As I'm walking out on the football field when we're running out, I fall. I fall because I'm looking at all of the people in the stands. Over 100,000 people. I fall on my face. Boom. And I get trampled over. My guy's just running over. My first time ever. First game. Never forget this. I'm on the sideline. I know I'm going to play in that game. I know I'm going to play. I'm a freshman. I'm so scared. I know I'm going to play. It's probably about the second quarter. We're up for a few touchdowns, and I know my name is about to get called. I'm so scared. I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in. And I remember them saying, Michael Clayton. And I act like they didn't hear me. I just sit there still. I just was quiet. And they yell, Michael Clayton, get in the game. And I was like, oh, and I go in the game. I'm scared. And I know they about to give me my car. So we call, I think it's like volunteer, a hitch route. Jimbo Fisher said he's going to throw me my first pass, a hitch route. I run 5 yards. I turn around. I catch it. I get smashed by about 5, 6 people. And what happened is I went on to lead the SEC in receiving 3 years after that. The first time, do you remember your first time coming up? I got a very special guest, Mr. Parnell Dickinson. He's in the house with me. We're going to be talking about his first time action when we return. Y'all stay with us.
Like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining, cost a Buccaneer. Big start defense Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer.
My uncle got a buck on his Bronco as I rock my pewter. Yep, word on the street, we got Brady. Heard it first on my computer. Hello. Defense pick up, screw ya. Hello. Sit back and enjoy this future. First show, let it go, innovate. Monday night, prime time, who you see? That's right, bright lights, big city. We ain't sweat, we got plenty. First show, let it go, innovate. Monday night, prime time, who you see? That's right, bright lights, big city. We ain't sweat.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need feedthepig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer.
Great morning, great morning. You're mic'd up on Monday morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton. And as we push into our very special guest, Mr. Parnell Dickinson joins us today, and I'm honored. And today's topic of discussion when we were going over the first, do you remember your first time? Do you remember your first time? There's a first time for everything. And this man sitting to my right experienced something very special because he was the first black quarterback in Buccaneer history. And, partner, I want you to take us back to that moment. You know, I know that in those times it was very different. Some will say it's a little bit the same, too. Somewhat the same. But it was a lot different as well. But I want you to take us back to that moment and what you were experiencing and what you went through as a player. Thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a blessing to be here, and what a blessing to wake up this morning as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
Absolutely, baby.
Yeah.
We're champions.
Yeah, we're champions. Well, I tell you, Mike, it's not the same as it was when I came out. And I'm going to tell you one distinctive reason why. A quarterback that came out in the first seventh round, first player drafted is making over $3, $4, $5 million now.
Oh yeah.
So it's not the same. It's a big difference. It's a big difference.
Big difference.
It's a big difference. But it's one of those, and I'm sure you can attest to it. It's one of those times that it's kind of hard to explain to people because it's a feeling that you only get when something like that happens.
Right.
So it was one of those feelings where, you know, you don't realize, in my case, being an African-American and going to an HBCU, Mississippi Valley, that, you know, when you get drafted, you don't realize that you have added pressure to yourself, but you don't really know it just because of who you are and where you come from.
Right.
But it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
It's an awesome feeling. And it's really a good feeling, as I said earlier, to wake up this morning as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, even though it's been a long time ago. But I'm still one.
Absolutely, baby.
I'm still one. I was first.
Forever and always. Forever and always. And I was on Twitter, some people, and I said, you know, we are considered legends. And anybody who played for the Buccaneers is considered a legend, you know, in the community because not a lot of people get to say that they wore the tag. We're a very small percentage of people across the country who have that privilege. So you are considered a legend. I want to know, during that time, was there any negative, you know, things that you had to face being a quarterback? You know, phone calls, threats, anything of that nature that you really had to humble yourself and push it aside and, you know, focus on the bigger picture?
Well, you know, in my case, in the time that I came out, I think there were three other guys prior to me. That was Marlon Briscoe, Shaq Harris, James Shaq Harris, Joe Gilliam, and then myself. And of the four of us, there were three of us that was actually drafted as quarterbacks. Most people don't know that. Marlon Briscoe was thrust in the position, but he was actually a receiver in the pros. He wasn't drafted as a quarterback.
Gotcha.
The three of us was. And when you talk about negativity, pretty much all of it was that because we wasn't supposed to be there. But by the grace of God, you know, we were able to get that chance. And the mentality that you had back then coming out of HBCU was that, you was gonna make it, you had to make it regardless to whatever the circumstances was, regardless to what the message that you got from fans or from the stands, or regardless to what the message that you got from coaches that probably didn't want to coach you because of who you were. Back during our time, it didn't really matter because we knew that there was somebody that was coming, behind us. So, when I left college, my college coach told me there was no reason for me to come back to Mississippi Valley saying that I didn't make it because, I was black. He said, you that before you leave here. So I didn't have any excuse.
Right.
Plus, I had I had my wife and we had my son my sophomore year, in college. So I had responsibility. Being an old country boy from Brighton, Alabama, it was time to get down to business.
How's Miss Ernestine?
She's doing fantastic.
That's awesome.
She's doing fantastic.
Talk a little bit about that experience going to HBCU, because we live in a world now where young kids want to go to the biggest schools. I had Jimmy Giles on the show. He talked about going to Alcorn, and I'm a product of HBCU simply because my whole family went to Alcorn State. I grew up watching Steve McNair and guys like that, and I wanted to go to Alcorn, but they didn't recruit me. Talk about that experience, about how Mississippi Valley shaped you and helped you to build you up enough to where you can compete in the National Football League.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, you talking about 40-some years ago, and my story in Mississippi Valley is very unique in the fact that my coach, I was introduced to him by an All-American that went to Alcorn named Willie Peak, who was the coach at Carver High School in Birmingham, Alabama, but he was leaving Alcorn, coming to my high school to do his student teaching. But lo and behold, Mississippi Valley was playing Miles College one Saturday, but the Friday before that game, we were playing a football game. And Coach Weatherby, who was introduced to me by Coach Pete, was at my game. I had no idea he was there or anything. But to make a long story short, after the game, when I got home, because back during that time, you could be having a party somewhere, but I couldn't leave the game and go to the party. I had to go back home and get permission. That's just kind of how it was back then. So in my time of going back home to get permission to go to the game, Coach Weatherby was at my house with my parents. But I'm trying to hurry up and get out of the house so I can go to this little party because I knew I had to be back home at 11 o'clock. And it's 9:10 already. So I'm talking to him, and he asked me, would I be interested in would I come to Mississippi Valley? I had no idea about Mississippi Valley. I didn't know what Mississippi Valley was. And I said yes, and I shook his hand. But when I shook his hand, I didn't realize what I had done there. And when time came to go visit other colleges and universities and things, there's no telling where I might have ended up. But when he came back, that national, what they call it, national letter of signing or national intent.
National letter of intent.
But anyway, when he came to sign me, he was sitting out in front of my house that morning about 6 o'clock, and my mother said, there's somebody sitting in front of the house. Who is this? It was him.
He wanted to get that paperwork signed.
So when he came inside, I hadn't decided I was going to Mississippi Valley. I told him, well, I didn't know if I was going there or not. And my dad said, wait a minute. He said, a month ago, this man was here, and you shook his hand, and you told him that you were going to Mississippi Valley. He said, so you've already made your decision. He told my mother, he said, there's no reason to set up no trips for him to go visit no other school.
Wow.
Because he made his decision a month ago, and he shook this man's hand. And he looked at me in front of Coach Weatherby and said, son, when you shake a man's hand, that's your word. So you need to go ahead and sign these papers so I can get out of here and go to work, and this man can go where he needs to go because you've made your decision. So my dad had made a great decision for me. I didn't make it.
Yeah.
He made it for me, and it was one of the best decisions that he could have ever made from me because, Mississippi Valley is, contributed to what I am today.
Right.
I met my wife there. My son was born there. So everything that I do now, the drive that I have is a result of me being at Mississippi Valley. So I always tell young kids when I have a chance to talk to them that are good athletes that, bigger is not always better, and we know more better for our kids than anybody. So always give your HBCUs a look and always give us a chance. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers found me back in 1976 in Ida Bene, Mississippi, when there was no cell phone, there were no computers, there was hardly any good telephones, and nowadays they'll find you.
Yeah, they'll find you.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And sometimes it's better to play 4 years, 3 years than 1 year.
Well, you were scratching on something, and I want to hit on it because I feel like we can take some nuggets out of what your daddy taught you in terms of character and integrity and being a man of your word. And just studying you and watching you over the years, and you have a great job with the NFL, having the opportunity to be on the field, and it just seems like the question is, well, how does Parnell get that job? Well, you got to know how to carry yourself around people, and it seems like everywhere I go, somebody knows you, they speak on you, they speak on your name, a big smile lights up. I just feel like that lesson from your dad about being a man of your word has impacted your life after football. Talk about how that has been beneficial to you and how it's helped you along your journey to maintain your independence and support your family and, set you on a career path.
Well, it's something that's very important to me that I teach my grandboys, my granddaughters, and whenever I have opportunity to talk to a group of young men, I always say to them, first impression is the best thing that you could have. Because if you don't make a positive, effective impression the first time, you're not gonna get a second chance.
Yes.
You're not gonna get a second chance. I don't know anything about dice or playing cards or any of that kind of stuff, but I do know if you don't throw it right the first time, you're not gonna have a second chance.
That's it.
So first impression is the most important thing that a young man, I'll say a young man because that's kind of where we need to drop our nuggets to our young men. You got to be impressive in a positive light the very first time you meet somebody.
Yes.
And there are three things that I teach my grandboys. There's a first, there's a second, there's a third. I tell my grandboys, I say, when you're trying to do something in life or to be something, I say, if you behind, nobody's going to pay you any attention. If you in the pack, people may not want to spend the time to find you in there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're out front, you easy picking.
Yes. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Now those are three things that you could add to where you are. It's not that very expensive. You don't need to have a master's degree or a PhD to understand what I mean by that. It's simple life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
If you out front, everybody can see that. If you're in the pack, people may not want to spend the time to try to find you in there.
Right.
And if you behind, nobody's grabbing people from behind.
That's it. Back when you played, were there a lot of opportunities like, signing autographs? I tell people like, man, players, sign as many autographs, kiss as many babies, shake as many hands, because you never know who's going to open the door for you, and you never know how valuable that intimate moment is. Did you take advantage of that when you were a player?
I tell you, I had one good autograph session my rookie year. Most people probably don't remember, and I'm sure you don't. Right where One Buccaneer Place is now,
mm-hmm.
there used to be the Tampa Bay Mall.
Yes.
There was a big Sears and Roebuck there. That mall was just opening up when the Bucks first came to town. And I did an autograph session for Sears Roebuck in that mall.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much it.
That's it.
But nowadays, guys, their signature could be worth, so much. But we were just doing it because we loved doing it. We loved the game. Everything was for the love of it.
Yes.
But now it's for the love of money. Understand?
Absolutely.
And, hey, I don't have no problem with that because you got to have that.
You got to you got to get that.
You got to have that.
You got to get that. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how Mr. Dickinson gets his money. All right. His job with the NFL, we'll go over that in detail. Y'all stay with us.
Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer.
Oh, Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer. I got the man to do the leg work for you. We tried the other ones before, so believe me. 100 down, 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay, call Ricky, he coming. He take the kids here to Florida, grab a pin of sundown. 184-361 Rick. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, push your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361 Rick. Call Ricky, ask Ricky is a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers on our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361 Rick. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky.
Call in and tell a friend to listen in. Listen up. It's In Touch Radio, reality radio.
Big start defense, Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Anything just to win.
The Bucs are loaded and Vegas is taking notes.
I'm going to give it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. I'm just looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I'm like, my God. But right now, I look at the Bucs as a threat to everybody. I expect the Bucs to be the
Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big start defense, Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big start defense, Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer.
My uncle got a buck on his Bronco as I rock my pewter. Yep, word on the street, we got Brady. Heard it first on my computer. Hello. Defense pick up, screw ya. Hello. Sit back, enjoy this future. First show, let her go innovate. Money late, prime time, who you see? That's right, bright lights, big city. We ain't swear, we got plenty. First show, let her go innovate. Money late, prime time, who you see? That's right, bright lights, big city. We ain't swear, we got plenty.
Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big start defense, Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big start defense, Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer.
Y'all hear that song? One eye patch like a Buccaneer. DJ A&A was supposed to get me on that track. Shouts out to my boys J. Rock Jones and Mike Twice. They created this Buccaneers theme song. We dropped probably about 10 weeks ago. And this was when, probably about 6 weeks ago, when the Bucs started really pushing on and everybody was creating their theme songs, Parnell, and they were sending them into the radio station. I'm listening to them. And then I get this one song, and I said, that's got a nice little tune to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm a producer and writer and all of those things. So I said, let me have some fun. So I go into the lab and cook something up real good. And dropped it on the track. At the end of the show on the radio, I always end with a poem, a spoken word, and that's how I close out the show. So I'm always interested in, being creative. We're back, you live. We're mic'd up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton. My guest today is Mr. Parnell Dickinson, and you had a special moment. You were able to spend with the team, have been with your job for a very long time. And you see a lot of players, and, you got a specific job. I think once or twice in my career, you got some money up out my pocket. But, you got to do your job. You got to do your job. And it's probably a tough job to have because, guys, we don't really like to see you come around because we want to dress how we want to dress. And you got a job to do. You feel uncomfortable when you out there on the field?
No, I really feel real proud of what I do, Micah, because I think the message that I'm speaking to the young guys is something that they can take for the rest of their careers. Don't waste your money.
Yeah.
Hey, do what you're supposed to do. The league is very rich. Don't you help make them richer with your money?
Right. And
you doing what you're supposed to do as a player.
Yes.
But don't cash your check for them. So that's the message that I try to send to them. Hey, dude, it's in your book. You know what you're supposed to do. You know how you're supposed to wear. You know what how you're supposed to dress. They give you what you're supposed to have. So when you go to adding something to what it is that they give you that's not in the book that they give you,
absolutely,
you out of line.
And for those who don't know what Mr. Parnell Dickinson is talking about, he's a very humble gentleman, but he has a very prestigious job where he has to make sure that everybody on the football field is in uniform. Properly. We got
according to code.
According to code. So you just can't be out there in the NFL wearing your own socks, wearing your own gloves, wearing your own shoes. You can't do that. Everybody has to look the same, and it's Mr. Parnell's job to make sure that happens. So a lot of times we trying to dodge or trying to get away from them because we want to wear our white socks when we know good and well. If Mr. Dickinson see me in here with these white socks, he gonna fine me, and you're gonna take that money. And what he's talking about is don't help the NFL. What they do is they take that fine money. They'll fine. I think I got fined probably about $3,000 one time over some socks, and they donate that money to charity. So all of that money goes into one big pot, and then they do something good with it at the end of the day.
Think about how many Pampers, how many things
That's
of
right.
milk that you could have bought with that.
That's right.
But just because you wanted to wear your own personal stuff,
yes,
it cost you. Doesn't make sense.
I always thought about it as a veteran trying to figure out a way how we can manage that money and try to figure out who we're going to donate that money to. Because after I realized how much money I gave away in fines and had to get smart, don't do that no more, Mike. Don't throw that money away.
Doesn't make sense.
Listen, we're talking about, do you remember your first time? And in your career, you go to a HBCU, you get drafted, you're not promised a job. You're backing up. At one time you were backing up Steve Spurrier.
Correct.
But I want to know what was that time like when you got your first NFL start? Take me back to that moment, the jitters, the feelings, and and the performance. How did you come out at the end of that day?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Mike. I didn't have any jitters because you got to remember, during the time that I played in the SWAC, every SWAC team, the Grambling, the Jackson State, the Alcorn, the Prairie Views, the Texas Southerns, the Southern, the Gramblings, Alcorn, every team that I played against in the SWAC in my 4 years, there was 5 or 6 first or second round draft picks on every team. I'm talking about the Walter Paytons, the Robert Brazil, the Gary Big Hand Johnsons, the Steve Dennises, the James Hunters.
People forget about the great players that come out of HBCU.
But I'm telling you, every team that I played against, there were 5 or 6 first round draft picks on every team.
Right.
So I had no fear of what was on the other side, I just
You had already been there, done that.
I'd already been there and done that. But because we was at the next level, I was still seeing some of the same guys. But so that wasn't any fear. I mean, the way I realized that I was going to start, it was just, before the game. I don't even think I took most of the snaps that week doing practice.
Oh, because Steve was
Steve was
still going to play.
Steve was the starter, and I think they realized Steve had an ankle or something. I don't remember.
Last minute he couldn't play.
Yeah. And then we were playing the Miami Dolphins. I ended up getting my ankle hurt that particular game, but I started out well. I think I threw the first
4 for 4.
Yeah, and I threw my first touchdown, and then of course, during the time I played, our offensive line was kind of like the ones that we saw Kansas City play against last night, and Miami defense was kind of like our defense that you saw play the other night. So it was a good experience. I mean, I have no negative feelings or regrets about it. I did what I could do, and and that was it. I left what I had on the field. So.
There you go. What was your biggest assets as a quarterback? What was your biggest ability, your best ability?
I think, I'm not big at, speaking about myself, but
you can do that here. This is the platform here. It's okay.
I put it like this. In 2017, I went into the Black College Football Hall of Fame, which is where all those guys are. I live in Tampa, but I pick my mail up in Canton as well.
I got you.
So to single out one part of my game is kind of hard for me to do, but I did have a nickname in the SWAC. They called me, and it followed me here, called Pay Dirt. I ended up with close to 8,000 yards passing, 89 touchdowns, and I never played on a championship team, but I'm in the Hall of Fame.
There it is.
I it's really kind of hard for me to say, okay, I could do this better, I could do that better. I mean, I think I was all around.
And I feel like what doors were open to you? You feel like earning that prestigious award of being inducted into Black College Hall of Fame?
I think it had to do with, of course, I made all SWAC, and these are things that I found out as this was happening. Because I've never been one to, see how many touchdowns I
reflect
could throw
that in the present time.
I never, really did that. But as it was coming up to it, I said, wow, I made all conference 4 years in a row. As a freshman, I made it. I made 8 All-America teams. I led the nation in touchdowns in one of those years.
And you never even thought about it. You was just doing you.
I was just playing ball.
Yeah. I spoke to LSU football team a year before they went to the national championship. And I was trying to giving them a rebuttal of what I went through because I never thought about those things at LSU. And I told them, I said, greatness is not in the present. You never experience greatness in the present because you never reflect, because you always want to do better than what you did.
Right.
Greatness is in the past. It's once you accomplish that, you look back years after you did it, and then you look back and you say, man, I left it all out on the field.
Yeah.
And I can enjoy your accomplishments, and you should enjoy that. You take the time out. Somebody just asked me the other day, Mike, have you ever reflected on your career of everything you've done? And I said, man, I'm 38 years old. I won a national championship, won a Super Bowl, had some great moments. I'm still young to think about the greatness. Like, man, maybe that comes at 50, 60 when you look back. But I guess my question is, you say you don't have that, you're not comfortable talking about, but you need to take the moments to reflect. At some point in your life, you got to look back and just smile at the greatness because you were one of the first to ever do it. So many people came in your footsteps, and your influence in this sport and in this town is pretty much unmatched compared to what a lot of people can do in terms of influence.
Well, and you're right. And I'm still young too, but I'm 68. I'm 68 next month, but I'm still young too.
Yeah, baby. And you look it too.
But I mean, I've got a man cave at the house with all the stuff, and so sometime when I get back there by myself, something may say, I glance up, at a plaque or something and say, wow, most valuable player of the whole conference, or All-American, most valuable player of this or that. So, sometimes I get back there and I look back at it and that kind of stuff. But I guess the most important thing to me right now is the fact that, I got a 21-year-old and a 22-year-old grandson. And I got a 26-year-old daughter that's getting her PhD up at Michigan State. It's just to show them that, hey, you can take what you get over the years, and the best way to handle it is make it work for you when you really get ready to live this life.
Right.
Right now, you just kind of not going through the motion, but you're going through it. But at some point in time, you're going to have to put the brick down and start building on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. And if you do that right, you won't have to say a whole lot about yourself. Other people will do that for you.
Without a doubt.
And that's kind of, how I was raised. I remember the first high school game I played in. I was a ninth grader and had a great game. Maybe had a punt, ran back, a kickoff, a couple of touchdowns, and I was talking trash in the ninth grade. And when I got home that night, my daddy says to me, he said, "Come here." I'm thinking my daddy finna say, "Oh, boy, I got a good ball player here." But the first thing my daddy said to me, he said, "If I ever see you running your mouth out on this team again against them guys you playing," he said, "you won't play another down." So I've taken that all the way up to 68. If you've got to talk about yourself, you ain't doing nothing.
Yes, indeed.
That's for other people to do.
Wow. It's crazy how we have these same type of stories, I remember when I played Pop Warner and we were playing against, we had a lot of black teams in the league. And then when we played against, the little white kids, they weren't as athletic and it wasn't as big as us. And we knew that we was finna, score some points. And I'll never forget, I'm running down on kickoff team, and I just lay the guy out, and I get up, and I'm pumping up the crowd. And Coach Maylene Brooks, my head coach, pulls me over to the sideline. I'm thinking he about to, tell me good job because I just smacked the guy. He grabs my helmet. He shakes it. "What you doing?" He takes fish, Parnell, chewed up fish, and he throws it into my face, man. Boom. "What you doing? Don't you be acting like that. No. You act with character. You don't be doing out there." And my coach was a fiery coach. He loved to hit. Like if we were playing against a team that could compete, he would want that.
Yeah.
But because he saw the way and it changed my life, every time I scored, and I was 8 years old. Every time I scored a touchdown, I just point up at the sky.
Yeah.
Act like you've been there.
Yeah.
Act like you've been there. And it's just those lessons that you learn at football. Like, man, you carried lessons till you 68. And I said, man, that moment when I was 8 years old impacted my life.
Absolutely.
Before we leave, I want to give you a moment to impact. It may be a former player who's listening. I know when I played with great players, Derrick Brooks, Rondé Barber, Simeon Rice. But those guys were a little bit older than me, so we never hung out, and so I think I missed out on those intimate conversations that I wanted to have, which is why when I came along, I made sure to talk to players and tell them about my mistakes because I was younger. When Carnell Cadillac Williams came in, he lived with me, and I was like, I'm going to take you under my wing. I made some mistakes you don't have to make. I just want to give you a moment to kind of, the first time when and that's the title of the discussion, do you remember your first time? And I remember when I got drafted, 21 years old, signing a $12 million contract and getting my first $1 million check. You've seen a lot of guys come and go in the league.
Yes.
Talk to speak on a message about guys getting paid for the first time and taking care of their money. My message was to guys was just, say no more than you say yes. Have the power to say no and create your nest egg. And when your career is over, you got enough money to kind of invest and do what you want to do. So many guys make the mistake of trying to invest while they're playing, and they're not present in what they're investing in. And it just 9 times out of 10, it turns out to be a mistake. But as an older head, I want you to just kind of speak to the young guys, give them some words of encouragement of things that you've seen in the past or what you would do different or something that hits their heartstrings that if they listen to this, they listen and put it into action.
Well, I don't know if I would do anything different, but one of the things that I regret was the fact that when I had a chance to go into the Hall of Fame, I had just lost my mother and father, and I just regretted the fact that they were not there. But I had a plethora of people from my hometown and my college team and everybody to be there. For them to hear me say how much I appreciate what they did for me to get me there, that's the first thing.
Right.
But as far as young athletes nowadays, the main thing that I would like to say to them is that your family is the most important piece that you have. The people that help you get to where you are. I'm not talking about the people that you went and party with every day. Family are people that are responsible for you and you responsible for them.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta make sure they stay in your circle. The people that's gonna tell you that you're wrong when you want to hear them say it's right.
Right.
Okay? That's very important. Everybody, everything you think of and everything that you want to do and everything you say ain't right. So have somebody in your corner that's going to look you in the face and they going to say to you, bull crap.
A no man.
That ain't a no man. You got to have a no man.
Got to have a no man.
Number 2, I love nice things. I love nice cars, nice homes. I like jewelry. I like all of that stuff. Don't let that be the reason you become broke. I got friends, but a real friend is somebody that's responsible for you. And you can be responsible for them. Everybody else is just, as they say, somebody you hang out with.
Yes.
And you can't be friends with everybody, especially when you the only somebody with the money.
Yes.
Okay? Sometimes it's okay for that back seat in the limousine to be empty.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes, you may want to say, okay, well, maybe it's only me, my wife, and my son. Maybe I don't need but 2 cars instead of 5. I'm not saying not get you a Bentley and a Mercedes and a Range Rover.
Just don't get 3 of them.
Just don't get 3 of them.
One at a time.
Yeah, get one at a time.
One at a time.
And then the most important thing of all, don't let nobody talk you into putting your money into something that you don't know about. And on top of that, you don't understand.
Yes.
Because if you don't know about it and you don't understand it,
just say no.
Just say no. Because
say no.
Hey, they got that there are investments now that you can put in annuities and things like that, which is what I do. You can put your money in that and you ain't ever got to worry about it. 20 years from now, it's going to be there. And it's going to be, if you leave it in there long enough, it's going to be twice more than what you put in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you want to be like me. You want to live till you get 68, 78, 98. Just don't say, well, I'm going to live.
And we want to live how you live.
Exactly. And you want to live how you live.
And look how you look.
And look how you look. You don't want to have
He looking good, ain't he?
Oh, listen to you. But that's just some of the things that, you got to have somebody that can look you in the face. They love you for who you are versus what you have and say, hey, man, I ain't going to do that.
That's it.
And you don't need to do that. And be firm. I got friends, like guys like me and Jimmy Giles and Shaq and all those guys like that. We real friends. We real friends.
Right.
We real friends because he'll look me in the face and say, no, bro. No. And stand up with it.
Yes.
Because that's
accountability.
That's responsibility.
Absolutely.
I'm responsible for him and he responsible for me.
All right.
Because if I hurt, he gonna hurt.
That's it. That's great stuff. How much time we good? Well, just a recap. Find you a no man. All right? Find you a no man. Have somebody in your corner to hold you accountable. All right? Your identity can't be in materialistic things.
No.
Okay? Find your purpose in life. Let that be your identity and who you are. It can't even be in football. Football goes up and down. All right? Find your identity in something that's everlasting. All right? Wise words. All right? One at a time. Buy buy one car at a time, one house at a time, one chain at a time. Take it easy. And last but certainly not least, wise words from the great Parnell Dickinson. Just say no. Just say no. If you don't have the education, if you don't have the time to be present in your investments, it doesn't matter what they're promising you. Just say no. Just say no. Keep your nest egg and have money to invest at a later date. Parnell, thank you so much for joining me today. It's people like you who make people like me, and I thank you for your love and your support. You've always answered that call when I called on you. I love to lean on you. You are inspiration to me, and I'm proud of the man that you are and how you represent our community, how you represent former NFL players. And your marriage, your family is beautiful, and I love seeing you in the public. I love seeing you doing well, and I just love you, man.
Well, thank you, man.
Tell Miss Ernestine I said hello.
I'll do it.
And
The
we love
feeling
you,
is
baby.
mutual.
We love you.
Let's tee it up.
Absolutely.
Stop running.
Stop running.
Let me throw that in. Stop running.
Stop running. He got listen. Parnell got his golf clubs in the car
all the time,
ready to go. We'll see y'all next Monday. We'll be back. You mic'd up on Monday mornings. Thank y'all for tuning in. Love y'all.
Defense pick up, hello. Sit back, enjoy this.